Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and kick off our meeting, a planning commission meeting, special planning commission meeting scheduled for Thursday, December the 5th at 6:30 p.m. We're going to go ahead and start with our pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Chairperson Ozaeta,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Laborin,
Present.
Commissioner Perez,
Present.
Commissioner Prieto,
Present.
Commissioner Ruiz.
Present.
I, Kimberly Hernandez, Housing Assistant, certify that a true and correct copy of the foregoing meeting agenda was properly posted on November 27, 2024, 72 hours prior to the scheduled meeting as required by law. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54952.3, disclosure of compensation for meeting attendance by the Planning Commission is $125 per meeting. Item number 1, Zoning Code Amendment and Conditional Use Permit. Condition of an ordinance to amend Chapter 11.21 of Title 11 of the Southgate Municipal Code relating to restaurants with ancillary alcohol sales within the open space zoning district. The project also involves a request for approval of the conditional use permit to allow the sales of alcohol license type 41, beer and wine for on-site consumption in conjunction with an existing restaurant/cafe located within a soccer facility at 9599 Pinehurst Avenue, the SoFi Soccer Complex, and finding that the project is categorically exempt from the CEQA under Section 15301, Class 1 existing facilities.
Thank you. Staff?
Yeah, good evening, Chair Ozeta, members of the Planning Commission. We have our senior planner here that will give the presentation on this item.
Good evening, Honorable Chair and Planning Commissioners. So this item before you is a zoning code amendment and a request for a conditional use permit. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, hold it there. Sorry. So the applicant for this request for a conditional use permit is Michael Ayas on behalf of SoFi Soccer Centers. And as mentioned previously, this project involves two components. One is a consideration of a draft ordinance or proposed ordinance amendment of the zoning code which relates to restaurants and alcohol sales within the open space zoning district. The second part or component of the project request is a conditional use permit, which is a request to allow dine-in restaurants within, or a dine-in restaurant within the open space zone, and to allow alcohol sales, specifically ABC license type 41, beer and wine for on-site consumption in conjunction with a dine-in restaurant. So currently the city is divided into multiple zoning districts, which determine the types of land uses that are allowed in specific areas. The open space zoning district is specifically designated to allow dedicated to parks, open spaces, recreational facilities, natural areas, with the main intent to preserve open land and provide for recreational opportunities throughout the city. The city currently, or at least the zoning code currently, does not allow for dine-in restaurants within the open space zone. However, the addition of dine-in restaurants and alcohol sales within the open spaces can provide opportunities for greater amenities for visitors, to encourage longer visits, create a more welcoming atmosphere for families, tourists, and other residents to enjoy these public spaces throughout the city. The city manager has initiated this ordinance amendment to allow for dine-in restaurants and ancillary alcohol sales within the open space zoning district. If this proposed ordinance is adopted, restaurants, specifically dine-in restaurants, may be permitted within the open space zones. In addition, alcohol sales ancillary to restaurants may also be permitted with the approval of a conditional use permit whenever presented in the future. The zoning code requirements for a zoning code amendment, as part of the provisions, the city council or planning commission and city manager have the authority to initiate a zoning code amendment. In this case, as mentioned, our city manager has initiated this process. In addition, the amendment shall be heard by the planning commission at a scheduled hearing. And if approved, the amendment shall be adopted by an ordinance and forwarded to our city council for final review, adoption, or denial of the ordinance. Before you is a zoning map of currently how the city is designated with different land uses. It's kind of hard to see it there with the various colors and whatnot based on the scale. However, the different colors represent obviously the zoning districts. Some are pertaining to residential land uses. Others are pertaining to manufacturing and industrial uses and commercial uses. In this particular map, the green areas represent the open spaces or land uses or properties that are designated open space. Specifically, the open spaces encompass public parks. There are currently 9 parks throughout the city, Southgate Park being the largest one, measuring approximately 96.8 acres. And Hollandale Regional Park is the second largest, which is roughly half of that, measuring 56 acres in size. Southgate Park is located within the middle portion of the city. If you look at the map there, it's the largest shaded green area. Now, with regard to the proposed amendment, before you is the existing table of allowed land uses per our zoning code. The areas that are highlighted represent the new text that is proposed to be introduced into our ordinance. And specifically within that table, you'll note that the dine-in restaurants and alcohol sales as part of a restaurant would be incorporated into this table and to be allowed within the open space zone with the approval of a CUP, which is on your far right column of the table. The X's that are shown on that table represent prohibited or zones where such use would be prohibited, and the P represents zones where the use would be permitted. Now, can you go back? Yeah, please. At the bottom, there's some notes that are also proposed to be incorporated to the zoning code, and which are specific to dine-in restaurants and alcohol sales. The footnote number 3, it reads as only one dine-in restaurant within a park per each 50 acres of land. So the intent behind that is to limit the amount of restaurants that could potentially be permitted within a park, as the staff understands and wants to ensure that parks are preserved primarily for open spaces. However, this would allow for flexibility to incorporate some restaurant facilities wherever there are opportunities. Restaurants are prohibited within public utility easements, right-of-ways, and other areas outside of parks that are designated open space. This note specifically is intended to discourage restaurants within easements. There are some utility easements throughout the city that are currently designated open space, but are not suitable, or our staff doesn't deem them suitable for restaurants or other dine-in facilities per se. And the footnote C is another recommended language within to be incorporated. And this calls for the Department of Parks and Recreation to provide a recommendation to the Planning Commission for approval of a dine-in restaurant should one be proposed within open space or park facilities. And footnote number 4, subsection A, it's specific to alcohol sales. And in this case, it reads as alcohol sales for on-site consumption of beer and wine, uh, ABC license type 41 only. Therefore, should alcohol sales be permitted in conjunction with a dine-in restaurant, they would only be allowed for beer and wine and no distilled spirits or liquor. The following note, it specifies that the Department of Parks and Recreation shall review and provide a recommendation for approval to the Planning Commission as well. Now, with regard to the second part of this project pertaining to the conditional use permit, the applicant is proposing to convert an existing cafe into a dine-in restaurant that's currently located within their soccer complex at Southgate Park, also known as SO5, formerly known as Gold Soccer Center. And they also intend to sell beer and wine for on-site consumption in conjunction with this dine-in restaurant. The applicant's also requesting the approval of a conditional use permit. I'm sorry, I'm just repeating here, but the license type is 41, which is specific for beer and wine. And this request for a CUP is contingent upon the adoption of the zoning code amendment. Given that the zoning code amendment would allow for these uses which are currently prohibited. Here we have an aerial view of the Southgate Park, and on your, I would say, northeast quadrant of the park, it shows the highlighted area which represents the vicinity or the footprint of SO5 with its fields and its clubhouse facility, which is adjacent to some mix of residential properties and church and even the Parks and Rec yard to the north of it. This is another aerial view just to have a close-up of the footprint that it occupies within the park. It has sufficient parking based on the use that's operating. And this is a parcel map, which shows that the park is comprised of 9 parcels. This clubhouse is specifically located within one parcel that's shaped like a flag lot. And here are some images of the vicinity. These images represent properties that are directly across the park along Tweedy Boulevard. You have a mix of multifamily, single-family residential properties and some churches. This view also depicts some existing context along the intersection of Hildreth and Southern Avenue, which also shows some residential properties. And further down Southern Avenue at the intersection with Hildreth, further down south on Southern Avenue, closer to Pinehurst Avenue. Here's a specific view at the intersection of Southern and Pinehurst. And the image to the bottom is actually a view looking directly across from SO5, or across Pinehurst Avenue, which is directly in front of SO5 Soccer Center. And so the surrounding context in general, it's a mix of residential uses and churches. These other images represent the existing conditions of the facility in itself. The images on the top are the exterior of the clubhouse building, and the images in the bottom are the specific location of where this dine-in restaurant would be operating. So currently, it's operating as a cafe, so it has some movable seating furniture, which is the space in the bottom, on those images in the bottom, and that space is going to be converted into a dining area with some tables, community style tables, to be specific. Here are some images of the outdoor patio area, which is directly adjoining the dining area that's being proposed. And it's also fronting the outdoor soccer fields. So it has a view directly to the fields where all the players play and conduct their activities. So there are three required findings for a conditional use permit that must be made by the Planning Commission to allow for a to approve this request, which are specified in this slide before you. As far as the operations, the applicant currently operates Monday through Friday from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday between the hours of 8 a.m. and 11 p.m. The applicant's proposing to serve alcohol, very similar hours as to how they currently operate. To be specific, on Monday through Friday, the applicant's proposing to serve alcohol between 2 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. and Saturday and Sunday between 8 and 10:30 p.m. As mentioned earlier, this applicant's project is proposing to transition a cafe into a more traditional dine-in restaurant. The restaurant would comprise of a dining area, a lounge, a party room, a diner, cafe, and the outdoor patio space. The facility is currently staffed with 30 employees, and applicants proposing to increase the count to an additional 7 full-time employees. And in addition, the business will operate with approximately, on average, 8 to 10 employees per shift. The current seating configuration accommodates up to 60 persons. With this proposal, with the changes in furniture to a dine-in restaurant, the applicant's also proposing to increase the seating capacity to a total of 88 persons. In this aerial, you'll see that there's a highlighted portion within the facility which represents the project area, specifically where the alcohol consumption and the sales would take place, including the kitchen facilities for the restaurant. Here we have a floor plan of the entire facility. On the far west, shaded in the blue, it represents the dining or the restaurant component of the clubhouse with its kitchen. So on the bottom left portion of your floor plan, it's the area that is dedicated to the kitchen facilities, including storage and back of house. And the top portion of that floor plan is the areas that are dedicated for dining and the outdoor patio space, which we'll show in greater detail shortly. On the far right, the rest of the building has some restrooms and locker rooms and some employee rooms as well. Here we have a closer view of the area that's dedicated to the proposed dining or a restaurant. It's currently operating as a cafe. So we have a kitchen, as mentioned, on the bottom left. And the point of sale is an area where it's shaded in yellow. And the lounge, it's depicted in adjacent to the dining area and a party room. So currently the dining area and the lounge are all a one space. They're not physically divided by a partition. And the applicant's proposing to maintain them as a continuous or open space. However, the party room has a permanent partition separating the space from the rest of the dining area. The outdoor patio space has some partitions that are comprised of storefront windows with that are openable. So if in the future the applicant chooses to open them up, it can become one free-flowing space between the interior of the building to the outdoor patio space. As far as parking requirements, the zoning code requires a total of 95 off-street parking spaces based on the current use and operations. The applicant or business is currently under a ground lease agreement in between with the city, which is the owner of the property. And the lease agreement has dedicated 234 parking spaces to the use. Therefore, they have sufficient parking for their operations. Here we have a summary of the recommended conditions of approval, which are stipulated in the staff report. Condition number 9 stipulates that no alcohol sales displays shall be permitted that are visible from the public street or parking lot. Number 14, all alcoholic beverage sales, offerings, and consumption shall be conducted completely within the enclosed building or permitted outdoor patio seating area for on-sale uses. Condition number 18, the permit shall be subject to compliance review of the property and permit conditions of the Planning Commission established intervals. The first compliance review shall occur within 6 months of the permit issuance or actuation. Condition number 22, the sales of alcohol shall cease at 10:30 p.m. or 1/2 hour before closing, whichever is earlier. This condition specifically aligns with the applicant's proposal. Condition number 23, alcoholic beverage sales, offerings, and consumption shall be prohibited on the playing fields and areas that are adjacent to the playing fields. And condition number 24 stipulates that the existing lounge area shall be reduced to a total of 500 square feet. Alternatively, the lounge shall be reclassified on the plans as a dining area and be maintained with tables and chairs, excluding sofas and couches or other lounge-style seating amenities. Condition number 29, this is a condition that it stipulates that the city's director of Parks and Recreation believes that the sale of alcohol pursuant to this permit is creating risk to public safety. Permittee shall, upon notice from said director, meet with the director informally to discuss mitigating those risks by implementing mutually agreeable modifications to the permittee's alcohol sales operations. Such modifications may include changing the hours when alcohol is served, adding security personnel when alcohol is served, or other changes acceptable to the director and permittee. Nothing in this condition number 29 constitutes a waiver of the city's rights under condition number 34, which I'll stipulate. And condition number 34 is as follows. If the application for this permit or any conditions of the permit violate the zoning code or do not fulfill the intent of the code, the Planning Commission shall, following a public hearing, be authorized to take the following actions. Action A, revoke the permit, revoke and reissue the permit with new or modified conditions, or modify the conditions of the existing permit as may be appropriate under the circumstances. B, imposed as a condition of the continuation, reinstatement, or reissuance of the permit, a requirement that the permittee reimburse the city for all costs and expenses reasonably incurred by the city for all costs and expense. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that one. Let me start. Imposed as a condition of the continuation, reinstatement, or reissuance of the permit, a requirement that the permittee reimburse the city for all costs and expenses reasonably incurred in investigating, identifying, and documenting the violation and in processing information concerning the violation for presentation to the Planning Commission and upon any appeal to the City Council. And subpart C. This permit shall be revocable if the exercises of rights granted by the permit are discontinued for 6 consecutive months. The use subject to the permit may not be resumed of the permit if the permit is revoked. A new permit, including processing and public notification, shall be required. Now, this condition, just want to go over it a bit. It was drafted in ways where staff had discussed certain concerns, and this was a mutual kind of understanding where police department, the director of public works, and planning department all wanted to ensure that there's going to be public safety with regards to the operations of the business, and therefore that's the way it was drafted. With regard to the environmental analysis, the Planning Commission act of recommending the adoption of the zoning code amendment is not subject to CEQA because it's not an approval, it's merely a recommendation. And it doesn't commit the city to any definite course of action regarding the code amendment. With regard to the conditional use permit, in accordance with CEQA, this project qualifies for a categorical exemption under Class 1 existing facilities, and that the project will not result in any alterations to the facilities nor expansions of the building. As mentioned previously, the municipal code requires that a conditional use be approved only if all of the required findings are made. And in this case, staff has determined that with the adoption of the proposed ordinance and with the recommended conditions of approval, the proposed project will comply with the Southgate Municipal Code. Therefore, the required findings in support of the CUP can be made. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission consider adopting this resolution 2024-07, recommending City Council approval of the zoning code amendment to adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 11.21 of Title 11 of the Southgate Municipal Code relating to alcohol sales within the open space zoning district, and consider finding that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA under Class 1 existing facilities, and further make the required findings and requirements set forth in the Southgate Municipal Code, and approve the application for conditional use permit 24-15, subject to the recommended conditions of approval or any conditions that the Planning Commission may wish to impose. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant's also here in the audience.
Thank you very much. We'll invite the applicant if you have a few words. Feel free.
The applicant in this proceeding. First, great event outside. Kudos to the city. It looks like people are having a good time. Traffic's a little crazy, but it looks like a fun time. We'd like to thank Rodrigo. That was an incredibly thorough staff report. We've enjoyed working with Rodrigo, getting through the process. And so we're here. This is our second bite at the apple. So we've been here before. But we are here essentially to answer questions that you may have. We have worked tirelessly with both the Parks and Recs, the police department, planning staff, the city attorney's office, and the city manager's office. I'd like to point out a couple of things. I think there's additional conditions. We are aware from our last go at this that there were concerns, and so we waited our time. We made the inroads with the community that we needed to make. We have the track record now in the other community that we were here and we weren't very far along with them. As you can see in the file, we did submit something a little late because the city manager couldn't get it to us earlier, but you see the letters from the chief of police of Covina, the mayor pro tem, as well as the chief of police. I believe, and I don't want to speak for the police department, but they're also here representative. They're not an objection to the project. Again, not speaking for them, Parks and Recreational Directors here, they're in support of the project. We have read and reviewed the conditions, which are robust. We would also note conditions like conditions number 30 that allow the Community Development Director to impose additional conditions. I'd also point out that we have a lease with the city. And so this isn't a random leasing by a private citizen for purposes of compliance. We have the lease itself calls out for this type of use. It's authorized in our lease, subject to, of course, the approvals. The lease also calls out for compliance. So there are about 46 conditions, Rodrigo, I think. About 46 conditions, or maybe a little bit less. No, 46 conditions that are placed on the license, all of which we have read, and our client will comply with in a biblical fashion. We also will have the ABC regulations. We also have the lease, which I think is one of the big things that wasn't talked about today. There's a lot of things that are in that lease about compliance, about following the terms in the letter of the law. Those things all put together should hopefully provide the sense of assurance that the Planning Commission needs to recommend approval. Beyond that, our client has invested over $9 million into this property that's owned by the city. They've been a part of the fabric of this community since 2010. We haven't had any material issues at this property. We have licenses both on the East Coast and now here in California with a clean track record, no ABC violations. I don't see anyone here from code enforcement telling us that we have any code enforcement violations, and certainly that would have been brought up by the planning by Rodrigo. Again, we're here because this is an amenity that our customers have asked for. It's not a money grab. In fact, my clients don't really make all that much. It's an amenity that my clients want to offer. If any of you have kids in sports, you spend hours and hours at these fields. And this is just an amenity that would allow a better gathering place for the community as we expand our use to not only make it a soccer facility, but really a communal location where families, adults, everyone can come and enjoy the facilities and enjoy the camaraderie of community and sports. That being said, while there have been some hiccups, we can't thank staff enough. We can't thank the city manager enough and city attorney, as well as police department. Again, we have worked really closely with them in getting us to where we are today. I did want to touch upon the hours of operation, just because I know some of you may have questions. So maybe to head it off at the pass, we are asking for those hours to give us flexibility. Obviously, 8 o'clock in the morning when we open, it really depends on the business, right? I mean, it depends on the event. It depends on the business. Sometimes maybe we're not going to be open that late. Sometimes maybe we are, sometimes that early. But we need to provide them the flexibility necessary for a business to operate so that it can recoup this $9 to $10 million investment that we've made into this community and allow us to continue to provide the community benefits that this facility does. This isn't a normal restaurant, right? This isn't a normal operation. This is something that the community by large, and I know that there's some people that always worry about alcohol and children and these kind of things. I would point to a Chuck E. Cheese or a Buffalo Wild Wings, but this is not your normal restaurant. This is really a community center based in a park. If you review the zoning restrictions, there's only 2 parks that can do this in your entire city, and we don't think that the other park has the facilities that this park has. And so, for somebody else to come do that, they would have to make a major investment into that open space. My clients made that investment into this space. My clients want to be in the city of Southgate. My clients want to remain in the city of Southgate. And they have a lease that they pay the city for, and we're very thankful for that. But this is something that we need, and we needed before, but we needed to prove ourselves, right? And so I trust that the letters from some of your counterparts ring true. We have been in your neighboring city and have had no issues. And in fact, it's gone the other way. We've had planning commissioners, even at those hearings, voice their concerns, but they, even the ones that have written you now, have acknowledged the exemplary work that my clients do in the communities that they're in. And we just want a fair shot at it. We're not asking for anything but beer and wine. And so with that, I'm here to answer any questions. I know that I would appreciate, we have some folks here in support of the project, and obviously we respect your time. And so by a show of hands, I'd rather do that. And then if there's any people that really want to get up and talk, or if we feel like we need to retort something, we will. But we kind of value your time, and we know that you guys maybe want to get back to the festivities outside. So by a show of hands, the people that are here for the support. Perfect. And I think that's Steve back there, the director of Parks, that's raising his hand. Also, we have the president of the Chamber of Commerce also is here. The mayor pro tem from Covina did want to come, but unfortunately he couldn't. So that's why he wrote in today, as did the city manager. So with that, I look forward to questions. I am an ABC expert. So if there's questions about the ABC license, again, it's a type 41. It requires us to do food. It's not a bar situation. It will never be a bar situation pursuant to the code amendment that we've agreed to, or that we've worked together to develop. It's going to be in conjunction with our operations and food sales. Again, I think not only the amount that we've invested into this community in cash dollars, but tax dollars, revenue, but employment and a place for people that they know is safe, that they know that they can go to. Our group of employees is very driven to encourage diversity, encourage female employment, female management. So these guys are doing everything right. And I, as an attorney that's been doing this for a long time, I just don't know what else more we could have done to garner approval or support for this project. I've done projects from the worst that you can think of to the best, and this is the best. These guys are affiliated with one of the top soccer teams in the world. They are doing things for this community that I would think that any community would want. And we're just pleading with you that this go around, we get the approval. You have the 6-month review. You have a lot of teeth to do this, and not only to revoke our permit, but you guys can boot us out if we violate the terms of the lease. I mean, you guys have so many options if we go a little bit off the path. We're not worried about it, which is why we agreed to 46 conditions and the 6-month review process, because we don't operate that way. We haven't operated that way in any of our other facilities, and every other city that we're in, open arms. And I think that rings true with what you've received from the high level staff and the police chief from the city of Covina, which is the closest one to you folks, and we thought would be the most appropriate to get for you guys. I could get them from the East Coast as well, but that's a totally different world, right? So your neighbor, and we thought that would be the most appropriate.
Thank you very much.
No questions?
We'll circle back. We'll go into public comment first.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
I think if you don't mind, Chairman, I think Louis Gerber, who flew in from New York for this, if you would give him the opportunity, perhaps he's the principal from SoFi. So if he could say a few words as on behalf of the applicant, I'd really appreciate it.
Sure.
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mike, and thank you very much to all of you for being here. I'm really humbled to be here because I know that 2 years ago we were already here, and we understood that back then we didn't do enough community work, and we didn't really understand the concerns of the community. That's why we went back to the drawing board, and we listened to the community. We met with a lot of people. We really tried to better understand the concerns of our neighbors and of the people around us. That's how we came up with the plan that we built, the safety and security plan that we have. And I think that I would like to go through that plan just so that people can hear it, because maybe they haven't read it, and I just for the people also here so they can hear it from us. The first thing is, when you walk into a SoFi facility, you walk into a space that is a controlled environment. The first time you step in, you have to do a check-in just like you would check in a gym. So we know who is in our facility. Then there is routine back checks, which means that you cannot bring alcohol, you cannot bring weapon, you cannot leave with alcohol, because security is here to prevent you from leaving with alcohol in those facilities that serve beer and wine. So it's a controlled environment. What we heard from our neighbors and the community is that the statu quo is not satisfactory to them, because there is a lot of tailgating, there's a lot of drinking in the park, there's a lot of people who don't really have another option. They're out there, it's very hard to control, but they don't have an option. And for us to enforce and to go out there in the parking lot and tell them, like, you can't be here, well, we don't have a lot of teeth. But if you tell them, you can't be here, but you can legally drink inside, or because you're basically putting us at risk of losing our license, we can now ban you from the soccer facility, and that's much more scary for them because they want to keep playing. It's really a community center for them. For us to be able to, thanks to the security camera system, we can flag people. It has facial identification, so that we can, flag person of interest, person who are working against us by not respecting the rules of engagement. Something that is very clear is that a lot of people were concerned with underage drinking or people drinking and not being controlled environment inside the facility. Any person who wants to have alcohol will have to have his ID checked thanks to one of those machines that verify that it's a real ID and not a fake one, even though they're pretty good now. Each person who gets his ID checked will have a bracelet. Each person who gets a bracelet only gets 1 cup, so they can't share it with other people. So it's a very strict process that we've been able to implement through our 16 other facilities where we do serve beer and wine. So it's not our first rodeo. We've had very high standards in terms of implementation of those processes and control. Our staff is going to be patrolling the facility to ensure that the alcohol is only consumed in the dedicated space. What else? What did I miss? Thank you so much, and sorry for my nervousness. It's not really.
Thank you very much.
Speaking. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you. Thank you. So we're going to go ahead.
No, you're okay.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and open it up to public comment. You're the first person here for public comment?
Oh, actually, hi, I'm Steve Costa. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation. And as you probably can tell by the couple thousand people standing outside, I gotta go back out to my other event. Sorry, there are a couple thousand people there. But I wanted to first come up and say, I am in support of the thing. I have been here for 36 years, 1988, sorry. Wow, I'm not that old. I've been here a long time. They have been good partners with us the whole time. I know that some of the newer conditional use agreement portions allows the director to call into question anytime they have some issues here. I think that's a great add to the thing because we're the front line right there. I have 7 park rangers. I have 200 staff. I'm going to be one of the first people to know if something's going wonky over at the soccer center. So that gives us a little opportunity. It doesn't mean community development or this group can't, but we're right there. We're right on that space. We're going to see them every day, through all my staff. And so I wanted to make sure you guys knew I am actually in agreement with it. I have had several discussions with our police department. We've looked at the overall situation. We agree on how it's being operated, and we're both in agreement with on that. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to ask me any questions before I had to go back out and finish that one in case. And I don't know. I know it's kind of weird for the thing, but I got to do stuff too.
Appreciate your comment. We're going to go ahead and move on to public comment.
Okay, we'll let you guys do that.
Thank you. So public comment, if you have any comments, feel free to line up to the left-hand side here. So in the interest of time, we make sure we proceed accordingly. You have 3 minutes right here on this.
Hi, I'm Caroline Maravilla. I live at 9311 Hildreth Avenue. I am an avid runner. I have been hit in this parking lot before. Citizens already do not stop at these stop signs. They roll through. It is a public park. We already have a lot of issues with alcohol, with drug use. The police we call over and over. I live right in front of the basketball courts. They do not show up. We call the parks and recreation. We don't speak with that gentleman there. My go-to person is with Mr. Glenn Massey, and he's something with the groundskeeper. They don't show up. It is a relentless night after weekend call. I came here last time. I gave a petition of just the residents on Hildreth, the ones that would directly be affected by this. Hands down, the lady is not here tonight, but I gave it to her last time. I'm not sure if you received it or not. Hands down, these residents said no. Last night, I did another petition on Pinehurst, who are directly across from Goals. Hands down, they said no. They're asking you not to do this. What is going on is I have a gentleman here who worked for Goals as a referee for years. And I will read his statement. My name is Fabricio Marcia. I live at 10526 Alexander Avenue. I worked as a referee for Goals for the soccer stadium for several years. As a ref, I was severely threatened on several occasions over a game. Sometimes I had to wait to leave the premises until I was sure the players were no longer in the parking lot. I count myself lucky there was no alcohol being served at that time, for I fear the outcomes would have been far worse than a threat. I am certain that many of these players had an intent to commit some sort of assault. I can only imagine the severity of the situation in Southgate Park. and that they would face if the council allows the sale of alcohol. I am making my plea as a fellow citizen to prohibit the sale of alcohol at SoFi. The name has changed, the situation has not. I have been here twice before, not counting the last time where the meeting was canceled. It is not a Buffalo Wilds. It is not a Chuck E. Cheese. This is a public park. It is, although it is goals, it is still a park. As the gentleman said, it is a park and this is a game for children. Alcohol should not be involved in this situation. This should not be your go-to. I am making my plea as not only a resident, as a citizen of this community. We have issues. This is a double working community. This is a blue collar community. This is not a white collar community. We already have issues with alcohol and drugs. This is my plea. There's already been one death on Hildreth and Duane. There was a young woman who died. Do not make this casualty higher than that. It is in your ability and your power to stop this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Any public comments? So if you have public comments, if you don't mind standing off to the, up against the wall here so we can proceed accordingly. Thank you very much. If you can state your name and your.
Good evening. Okay. My name is Olivia Quijano, and I live at 9604 Pinehurst Avenue, right across the street from SoFi. And I object to SoFi selling alcohol for a number of reasons. And SoFi is sharing the parking lot with many other facilities there. First of all, you have the golf course. Then you have the batting cages. Then you have 4 softball diamond fields. You have the girls' clubhouse where many children participate daily. Then you have the auditorium on the west side. And then you have the parents that are dropping off their children in the morning and the evening at Tweedy Elementary School. Then you have SoFi. That's a total of 7 facilities that are sharing the one parking lot. That is too many. That is unsafe for the people that use the parking lot. It is unsafe for all of my neighbors, and it is ridiculous what is happening at the park. Now, another thing is, I have complained several times to the Assistant Parks Director, Mr. Macy. I've complained to him several times. I complained to him last week, last month, last year. I've complained to him about the parking lot and the drugs and alcohol that are going on at the park. Now, the other thing is, I asked Mr. Macy, can we have more security? He said, we don't have anybody that wants the job. He said, there's openings available and no one wants to work at the parking lot because of the drugs and the alcohol. It's unsafe. The other thing is, he told me, call the police. I tell him, Mr. Macy, you call the police, they don't get there on time. By the time they get there, the people have already raced out the parking lot. It's just horrible the way they drive. They're going to run over some little child. And what's going to happen? You sell alcohol at the SoFi, and guess what? It's in the parking lot. If they hit a resident, a child, someone coming from the neighborhood that is using the facility, who's going to be at blame? Southgate. The city of Southgate, because that's a city facility. It's a city parking lot. And we don't have, the city doesn't have the money for a lawsuit. I don't think so. We need the money to go somewhere else. We don't need it for a lawsuit. The other thing is,
Ma'am, your time is up.
oh, they were allowed to talk.
Yeah,
Let me have
they-
1 more minute at least.
They
They
were
were allowed 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm going to continue to talk.
Ma'am, they
I'm
were-
sorry.
They were the applicants.
Selling alcohol
Ma'am,
at SoFi will only
No,
make
ma'am.
matters worse.
We have to
Ma'am.
make it fair
What I
to
am
everyone.
requesting is the following. I have 3 little things to say. Thank you. No alcohol permit at SoFi Soccer Field because of the safety concerns. Safety, safety, safety. That's my concern for all the people that use the parking lot
That's right.
on
That's
Pinehurst Avenue. The other thing is, the city and the park needs to hire more police officers. The other objection I have for SoFi
Ma'am, I'm
is
sorry.
that the
We're gonna have to
parking
move on.
lot
Greg,
is shared by the golf course and the
Yes.
other facilities.
Please,
And-
we need you to leave the microphone.
Can you just give me a little consideration?
Sorry,
We're
ma'am,
giving
we-
everyone the same time. You.
everyone gets 3
Well,
minutes.
they were allowed more than
They're-
ample
yeah.
time with
They're
their,
they're
with
the
their
applicants.
videos and whatever, and I should
members-
be allowed.
Ma'am, you're
But
the
the last
applicant.
thing, let me say one
Ma'am.
more thing.
Ma'am.
SoFi closes at 11. The parking lot closes at 11. Guess
Right.
what? The parking lot is not
Ma'am.
empty until 11:30 or 12 o'clock at midnight. And you allow them to have alcohol, and I'm sorry,
Thank you, ma'am.
it's not safe. Thank you.
Next individual, please. So just a friendly reminder, if we can just be conscious of the fact that we get 3 minutes for public comment. We understand it's a contentious topic, but we want to be mindful of everybody's time. So if you can please respect the 3 minutes, it would be greatly appreciated.
Good evening, Commission. Edgar Pelayo, Southgate resident and Parks and Rec Commissioner. Just here to add a few, thoughts regarding this topic. Some of the residents have mentioned safety, right? And I think public safety is definitely the most important thing to consider here. As some of them mentioned, rangers around the park, short-handed, really, there's probably one or two. Police do not respond, and there's been several complaints made by residents regarding that alcohol consumption in the parking lot, drug use around there. I've seen beer cans and bottles around the area, and I think that this is all something that would contribute to the problem. I don't think the city is equipped to have this type of facility at the park, mainly because of the lack of rangers, lack of police. And quite frankly, I didn't see anything in the presentation that was provided, any requirements for security. So I think that's definitely an important thing. A few other things I'd like for you guys to consider is regarding the benefits to the city. I don't know that this is going to necessarily generate substantial tax revenue from this, or any other benefit, or maybe even an additional restaurant in the city that people can attend. Lastly, I'd also like to add that SoFi manages another facility, which is the batting cages, and the batting cages are really run down and are not maintained and kept up. So I don't know that we can trust necessarily that something would be done properly at SoFi, given that the batting cages are not up to par. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next public comment.
Good evening, members of the commission. Edgar Alman, I'm a Southgate resident, 10024 Annette Avenue. I just wanted to share some comments in favor of opening the restaurant at SoFi. I think, from my personal views, I think it could bring significant economic, social, and cultural benefits to the community. Some of the key reasons why I believe this venture would be a positive addition is first, because of economic growth and revenue. A restaurant would attract park visitors, local residents, and tourists, increasing foot traffic to the area, and it could lead to job creation. The restaurant would create employment opportunities for local residents, including positions in cooking, serving, management, and maintenance. It would increase tax revenue. The sale of alcohol and food would generate a tax revenue that can be reinvested into improving park facilities, infrastructure, and public services and safety. It would enhance the park experience by having a restaurant within the park. It provides a convenient and enjoyable space for visitors to relax and dine. By offering beer, the establishment caters to adults seeking a casual and social experience, complementing the park's recreational and family-friendly atmosphere. It could promote local products. If the restaurant incorporates locally brewed beers, it can showcase regional breweries and strengthen ties with local businesses. This not only supports the local economy, but it also attracts beer enthusiasts and tourists. It promotes responsible drinking in a controlled setting. A professionally managed establishment ensures responsible alcohol service. I know it's a big concern for people that there's a lot of people drinking beer outside. So this will adhere to state laws and emphasize safety. This is preferable to visitors bringing their own alcohol, which may lead to uncontrolled consumption. It'll also boost park utilization. A well-designed restaurant encourages greater use of Southgate Park, especially during evenings or weekends. It could serve as a landmark that draws in visitors who might not otherwise frequent the park, increasing its visibility and relevance. Just to finish off, a restaurant in Southgate Park is more than just a dining option. It's an opportunity to enhance the park's appeal, stimulate the local economy, and foster a stronger sense of community. By carefully balancing a family-friendly atmosphere with responsible alcohol service, this addition would greatly benefit Southgate Park and its residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Anna, and I'm the director of the Southgate Chamber of Commerce, and I'm here in support of the SoFi. Their efforts in the community have been outshined. They've outshined themselves. Recently, earlier in the year, we hosted an event, an anti-bullying event at their facility. We had a good about maybe 20, 25 parents there. And I think I'm listening to all the residents here, and a lot of this has to do with education, right? So how are we educating our children, our youth, and maybe now children that are already, or kids that are already parents? How are we educating them so that they can live in a good environment? My boys, I personally have older adults, and they go to SoFi, and it's up to them if they're going to decide to drink or not to drink. So I am definitely in support of this. SoFi has been an asset to the community in Southgate. They're always considering to support us. We have a Christmas parade. We have our mariachis festivals. We have tons of events in the community that they're always willing to support. And I think we also recently had like Coffee with the Cop. So we invite these community members that are right behind us, upon us, to come out to these events at SoFi and learn about them, and how can collaboratively we can all work together and make it a more of a positive impact for our community versus, and I just listened to one of the residents, absolutely, safety is our priority. However, when I drive down Hildreth, runners do not stop. So we can be, trying to get out of a driveway and they do not stop either. So I think, again, it's collaborative, it's education. So as a runner, I would, have to learn my restrictions, and of course, as a driver, regardless of if there's alcohol or no alcohol involved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next public comment.
Good evening, planning commissioners and staff and everybody here. My name is Al Rios. I'm a resident here on the Orange Street, a couple of blocks away. I don't have nothing personal against SoFi and all the activities, right? But I have concern about the expansion, that they've had. They've been expanding, and they have new ownership, and I know that, and it's concerning because the council didn't know when it changed over, and it's a long lease, and it's taking up public space, and I'm just concerned about the alcohol. We have a substance abuse problem. I mean, this is the most important decision because this is not going, what I understand from Ron, it's not coming to the city council. The city council voted it down a couple of years ago. I don't know what changed. There's a lot of issues. Selling everyday alcohol, that's every day. I mean, I like the activities they have already. Why do they need to make more money? I mean, why not keep it the way it is? It's provided. There's no security. I mean, it was an initial plan, I heard, and it's not in this plan. They put it in there. We took it out. Whose side are we on? Where are we on the residents' side? We should be, you guys, the batting cage I hear, it's always down. I mean, you're responsible. Well, I know, but you guys are responsible for it. There's already people drinking in the facility right now. People have told me. that they're drinking already in the site. So there's no that even supervision. And now they're not going to have it's just, it's puzzling that this is coming here and that you folks have a decision to make that's very important. There's no children here. There's no young people here. That's who you're really is going to impact. I mean, what are we saying? That it's okay to drink now and have sports at the same time? I mean, so, I'm concerned about the compliance and the security, the public safety with a school across the street, with all these other activities at the park. What are we telling the community? It's okay to be drinking is okay. And we know it's not. We know that in a hardworking community, some of our members take it a little too far. And I'm worried about the risks involved. And so I hope you really think about that, especially right now, approving something that has no security. And we already know the little things already going on there. And there's not going to be, who's to say it's going to get any better? It's going to get, I don't know anywhere they sell alcohol where it's going to be any safer. So again, I just want to really think about this. This is an important decision. I live here. I didn't get a notice. I live 2 blocks away from the park on Orange. I didn't get, so there would be more people here if more people knew about this. A lot of the residents in the community don't know this is on the agenda, folks. And, so this is, you need to think about this more seriously. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next.
My name's Leo Quijano II, son to Leo Quijano I, actually, who was on your park commission when he was alive. A lot of people, I've heard a lot of points here, and the points that I'm going to pick out from what I've heard by people for this are the word need. We need this to prove ourselves to who? You need alcohol to have fun? Does anybody here need alcohol to have fun? Need, the word need, no, that doesn't work here. And we have, I should have brought notes. Okay, and this is a $40,000 median city. The average person here makes $40,000. Guess what? A lot of us make less. Even as a teacher, I made less than that a year. All right. The money needs to go to our city. I'm sure we're getting money from this place, Amazon, not seeing it on the streets. Our street is, I'm sorry, I live on Pinehurst, and it is just, it's used like a thoroughfare. They go get gas at the Mobil at the corner, and they turn around and they make a U-turn to use Pinehurst as, as a thoroughfare. But the point about that too is something that I didn't hear from anybody briefly, is that there is a school on Pinehurst. All right. I have a son who's 4 years old. He's autistic. He could run out if he gets out. And I shudder to think what would happen to him. And I shudder to think what any parent would do if something like that would happen to their child. All right. There's a school on one side, a church on the other. Block down, you have a liquor store, Johnny's. And then on the other block down, you have Toadstool. We're already surrounded by too much liquor. I go in my backyard and I could smell wafting marijuana coming from the parking lot. 33 seconds. Okay. All right. Let's see. Is the alcohol place 21 and over? No. So there shouldn't be kids in there. And we tried to get support from the principal of the school on our block, but she said, no, we're in favor of it because they let our students in for free. So that to me sounds like a bribe. Don't say anything because, we're helping you out here. And I actually have video from the other day from the students walking from the school directly to the SoFi place. All right. Kids, right? There are kids. We need them.
Thank you for your comments. Could you give your name? Just, I don't know if I missed your first and last name for the record.
I said it 3 times.
Sorry.
That is Leopoldo Manuel Quijano II.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Good evening. My name is Juan Perez, current resident of Southgate. I just want to say something. On Tuesday, I was here. You guys approved Target for wine and tasting. I don't see it so much different, especially if they're giving you a lot of, let's say, rules and everything. I don't see it so much of a different thing. I'm pretty sure nobody knew about Target either, that they were going to do the wine tasting and all that. Nobody showed up. So it's kind of weird that people say like, oh, I didn't receive nothing. I mean, I come, I see, I mean, I approve the project. Like, I really want to be able to show up there. I mean, have a good time with friends and everything. So, I mean, if people go based on what you guys approve on Target for wine tasting, I know that they said they don't have nothing in place yet of what they're really going to do, but they really didn't deliver they didn't answer a lot of your questions. So, I mean, I just want to say that, like, 'cause I mean, these people, they say that they don't get notified and stuff like that. But I mean, you could check on the app, like all of these agendas, everything. So I don't know what to say, but I do approve it.
Thank you. No more public comment. Oh, one more.
Hola, ¿cómo están? Si me permiten hablar en español, yo les voy a decir algo en español. ¿Está bien?
Rodrigo, will you translate? Try to translate?
Yeah.
Yeah. ¿Le va a traducir, Rodrigo? So, despacito para que pueda traducir.
Mire, yo vivo ahí enfrente del lugar donde se juega el fútbol, donde vienen a representar a estas personas.
He lives in front of
Vivo
SoFi.
como 40 años allí o 50.
Been living there for about 40 to 50 years.
Les quiero decir que por favor hagan algo con nosotros. Tenemos demasiado.
Please do something for us.
Lo que está pasando allí, si muchas personas de que nos representan aquí en la ciudad, que son ustedes, no lo saben, yo quisiera decirles lo que en 40 años he venido viviendo hasta la fecha.
I would like to share with you what I've lived the 40 years, or the experiences that I've had the 40 years I've lived there.
Y por favor quisiera que consideraran eso.
And
Es
please consider
demasiado
this.
lo que quieren hacer de dar permiso de vender licor allí. Que en realidad no queremos que vendan eso. Tenemos 7 lugares que venden licor atrás de la Pinehurst, en el Atlantic.
There are 7 locations behind Pinehurst that already sell alcohol.
Tenemos 3 licorerías que se dividen menos de media milla.
3 liquor stores divided within
Tenemos-
half a mile.
Tenemos 2 restaurantes y 2 gasolineras,
2 restaurants and
venden
2
licor.
gas stations that also serve alcohol.
sin incluir el 7-Eleven que está en la Firestone, en el Atlantic.
And a 7-Eleven
Que
along
también lo
Firestone
venden.
and Atlantic as well.
Y si allí van a vender también, por favor, díganos para dónde nos vamos a vivir.
So if
que
you're
ya es
going,
suficiente.
if you're going to sell alcohol at this location, please let us know where you want us to move.
Aquí se aprueban muchas cosas. Algunas nosotros no nos damos cuenta. Cuando nos damos cuenta es que ya las aprobaron.
Certain things get approved here, but we don't find out until they're already approved.
Hace unas 3 semanas más o menos se aprobó que movieron a las personas de parquearse de la Southern Place y la Southern regular.
About 3 weeks ago, it was city approved the relocation of parking.
La razón que las movieron nunca nos dijeron, pero las movieron de allí. Que en
They
tan-
never told us the reason why, but they did end up making
en
those changes.
tanto vivir allí nos damos cuenta más o menos quizás por qué los movieron. Está bien, pero quizás alguien no se percató de lo que iba a pasar al moverlos de allí. Los tenemos enfrente de la casa, enfrente de la escuela. Allí están haciendo lo que hacían acá.
So
lo
now that
mismo.
they're relocated, they're conducting those activities closer to us in front of the school.
Que me imagino que ya saben por qué los movieron y qué es lo que hacían allí. Pues lo mismo están haciendo allá.
So they're
Okay.
still conducting the same activities that they were in the other location where they were moved
Entonces,
from.
yo quisiera que si toman algo en consideración eso, por favor, hagan algo por nosotros.
Please do something for us.
Si es posible. Gracias.
If it's possible.
Gracias. Next.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rufino Franco, and I am the general manager for Soul 5 Covina. So I actually started as an assistant manager here at Goals in Southgate, then moved on to Covina. And just hearing the residents, we've been through the process because we just celebrated our 2-year anniversary with having the beer and wine license. So we opened back in 2018, 2022, we did get the license, and it was very similar complaints, concerns. It was a little bit of everything. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the Covina location, but we actually share a parking lot with the school, with an elementary school. So they were, actually they're the landlord because we're on a lease with Covina Valley Unified. So there was a lot of requirements that were put into place, how we talked about the check-ins, the monitoring where they could actually drink. And most importantly, the concern here that I've heard a lot is the drinking in the parking lot. So we also share the parking with the park that's literally 50 yards from us, which is the Little League Park. They also had the concern. They came, they spoke on our behalf because they had the same issue, people drinking in the parking. We had the same issue, people drinking in the parking. Once we got it, everyone funneled inside because we were able to walk out and be like, wait, are you drinking there? Guess what? You're not allowed here back no more. Since that day, we've cut that out. We've cut that out and everyone's inside having a drink. And again, when I say a drink, it's an amenity. It's not a local neighborhood bar. It's not, we open up at 2. We don't have a 2:30, 3 p.m. person just coming directly to drink. It's a parent that brings their child to one of our youth programs because we have over 600 kids coming through our doors weekly. So they come in, the kids practice for an hour, they sit down, they have a beer, they're watching a game, practice is over, they head home. Same thing as an adult. We all have a choice to drink. There's some people that play in our leagues that their whole group will stay there. Half of the group may drink, have 1, 2 beers, and then call it a night. So it's not like people are there for more than 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. Because again, people there are their games are no more than an hour long. Actually, to be specific, they're 45-minute long games. So they finish their game, they come out, they dress, they have a beer, watch a little bit of the game, and then they call it a night. Other than that, I just wanted to just kind of address that because it is a very similar issue. And I do want to highlight and stress that we do share a parking lot with the school, and the school is less than like 25 yards away from us. And to this day, I knock on wood, we've had 0 alcohol-related issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. First of all, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Alicia. I'm the general manager for the SO5 in Southgate here. And I just want to let you guys know or remind some of you guys about the relationships we have built and are building with the community. To begin with, just because I heard about Tweedy Elementary School, they do walk on over. It's a field trip, a walking field trip. They're so close to us. So they come on over, they use our field during closing hours from 1 to 2. The facility and all in all is basically just for them. So nobody's coming in and out. Those are hours that were not up on the schedule. So that's one thing that I did want to point out. We do this for the schools. I've opened it up. I've gone to PTA meetings. I've gone to Padres Unidos meetings to open it up for all the schools in Southgate, just so that they could take advantage of this opportunity, right? We're not just doing it for Tweedy, we're doing it for all Southgate schools. So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up. Also, we do free admission to Southgate residents twice a week. We give them 90 minutes, that's for sure. And then after that, if we have the space available, we allow them to stay longer if needed. Most of the people that come in, the residents that come in, are elementary, middle school, high school kids, which to me, it's a blessing because they take advantage of that opportunity that they can go in there and play for free. It's basically in the contract that we have with the city to where we give back to the community. So those are a couple of 2 relationships we have. Also with AYSO, they come in 4 times a week. They use up our fields 2 hours each day so that they could, be in a safe place under lights and train. We also, We also are helping a local counseling center where they also come in and they use our facility during the hours that they are available to bring in the kids to play soccer. Who doesn't love soccer? Also, what was mentioned, we also partner with the police department. We had an event called Kicking It with the Cops. It actually turned out to be really big. Everybody had fun. The police had fun. The kids had fun. We've participated also in night out events. I've been the general manager there for 17 months now, and ever since I've been there, like I mentioned, we had already been involved with the community, but we continue to grow and make more relationships with the community. That's something that will continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Olga Vega y yo también vivo enfrente del...
Un momento, por favor, para que le traduzca.
Ah, perdón. Buenas
Y
noches.
despacito para que
Ajá.
pueda traducirlo.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Olga Vega. Yo también tengo como 30 años también viviendo enfrente del parque.
My name is Olga Vega, and I've been living approximately 30 years in front of Southgate Park.
Y últimamente ya tiene como un año, como dicen aquí, aunque no esté como involucrado el alcohol, todas las noches, lo que es el fin de semana,
It's been approximately 1 year, and consistently on every weekend, we've had issues with alcohol.
después que salen del Golf o el Safeway, salen corriendo a carrera y ya han pasado 2 incidentes muy feos. Ya han-
After they step out of the complex, they've gone out rushing,
han
getting
chocado
rushed out of
carros
the
afuera.
facilities. Los carros.
Sí,
With
o
their
sea, vienen
cars,
jugando carreras y
vehicles.
se estrellan en los carros de enfrente.
They have been racing and crashed into other vehicles that are
Y
parked.
no hay seguridad. En la noche, yo los invito a ustedes que caminen en la noche. Se queden hasta entre las 10 y las 11, no hay nadie ahí.
I invite you all to come
la
out
gente
and or see the conditions at night, and
Están tomando
as they are always
en los
drinking.
carros. O sea, es la seguridad como vecindad. Ujú.
It's security among the community.
Gracias.
Gracias. Next. If you have a public comment, please move off to the side to the wall so we can
Buenas
continue to
noches.
move it along.
Yo me llamo
Despacito, por favor.
Sí,
Ok,
yo me llamo
gracias.
Rosa Ramos. También igual que la señora, tengo viviendo casi más de 30 años ahí. Pues
My name is Olga Ramos, and just like the other lady, I've been living here for approximately 30 years.
y en sí no, en ese tiempo yo no he visto ni de ahora que pusieron el golf, un security.
And all this time, we have not seen any security even when you place the golf.
Yo he oído que hacen los carros que salen de ahí carreras o queman llantas, no
Always,
sé, o hacen donas, no sé cómo le llamen.
I hear vehicles burning out or racing.
Entonces hay niños, hay la escuela, tenemos nietos o tienen hijos y para mí yo creo que es un mal ejemplo para esas criaturas que vendan alcohol. Yo no estoy de acuerdo en que vendan alcohol.
There's youth across the street in the schools, and this facility would serve as a bad example for the youth.
Ahora yo les quiero hacer una pregunta a todos.
I'd like to pose a question to you all.
¿Qué harían ustedes si ustedes vivieran en un lugar en esta situación que nosotros estamos?
What would you do if you lived in a place in a place where and have this situation that we are in?
¿Pelearían o se quedarían con las manos cruzadas?
Would you fight or would you stand down?
Muchas gracias.
Gracias. No more public comment. We'll go ahead and close that, and we'll move on to public comment that's been submitted. Out of transparency, we're going to go ahead and have all public comments read in full.
We have a total of 7 comments.
Sorry, the petition from Pinehurst, the street.
Comment number 1. Dear Southgate Planning Commissioners, My name is Victor Linares, and I am the acting mayor pro tem of the city of Covina. I am writing today because I am unfortunately able to appear in person to testify at the hearing scheduled for this evening, December 5th, 2024, before you. I was scheduled and on my way to the previously scheduled hearing set for November 19, 2024, which was unfortunately canceled due to a noticing issue. That said, this correspondence is intended to express support for Goals Southgate pending requests before you. Goals applied for the same request that is being made in Southgate and before you for consideration this evening. The city of Covina continues to enjoy and foster a relationship based on strict compliance and community involvement with the applicant. The city of Covina has seen no negative impacts by the addition of the ancillary alcohol sales with the addition of an alcoholic beverage license to the Goals facility in our city. In fact, we have seen the opposite, and Goals maintains their promises and strictly complying with all additions promulgated in their CUP. There have been no police-related or neighborhood issues since the issuance of the license, which we have confirmed with the Covina Police Department, which was confirmed by our Chief of Police. In fact, our Chief of Police provided your city planning department with a letter regarding the same. While I recognize the addition of alcoholic beverage licenses come with certain concerns, Goals has proven itself to be a responsible and committed operator and partner in our city, and I have no doubt that they will do the same with the city of Southgate. I fully back and support the request being made by Goals in our neighboring city of Southgate and would urge the planning commissioners to allow this applicant's corporate operation to extend its services to allow the ancillary services of beer and wine in its location in Southgate. Signed, Victor Linares, Mayor Pro Tem. Comment number 2. Dear City of Southgate Planning Committee, I am writing in support of SoFi's application for an alcohol license. As a member of the local community, I believe it is important to recognize the proactive steps SoFi has taken to ensure the safety and well-being of the neighborhood, as well as their commitment to responsible alcohol service. To my knowledge, SoFi stands apart from the other venues in the area due to their exceptional security protocols and measures to protect the community. The venue has made significant investments in security staff, surveillance, and crowd control, which contribute to a safe and welcoming environment for all patrons. This level of oversight is unmatched by any other local establishment, ensuring a strong commitment to maintaining public safety. Moreover, I am confident in their ability to uphold local, state, and federal regulations. SoFi has an impeccable track record across all of their other locations with no history of deficiencies or violations. This proven commitment to compliance demonstrates their expertise and dedication to responsible business practices. I trust that SoFi will continue to uphold the highest standards of safety, security, and regulatory compliance, and I believe their alcohol license application should be approved. Their operations will benefit the community while ensuring that the venue remains a responsible and safe establishment. Thank you for considering my perspective in support of SoFi. Sincerely, Lily. Dear friends, I am writing to share the city's positive experience with Goals Soccer Center Covina, Goals Covina. Goals Covina is located on a property owned by the Covina Valley Unified School District at 699 South Barranca Avenue and is adjacent to a local elementary school, single-family residential neighborhood, and multifamily residential neighborhood. The facility consists of 10 soccer fields and a roughly 2,350 square foot clubhouse with a check-in area, indoor cafe, and customer seating area. In 2022, entitlements were approved for the sale of beer and wine at its facility, subject to a conditional use permit and other requirements in the city's municipal code. Since this time, the management operator at Goals Covina has continued to adhere to the operating requirements included in the city's conditional use permit and has established a proactive working relationship with the city's police department and community development department. Further, Goals Covina has demonstrated its ability to be responsive to its neighbors and has helped to enhance recreational opportunities for the community. It is for these reasons that I would recommend Goals Soccer as a responsible operator of organized soccer facilities. Should you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Sincerely, City of Covina, signed Chris Marsarello, City Manager. Next public comment. This petition was born out of a personal tragedy. A deadly accident occurred on Hildreth and Dwayne Way, a sorrowful reminder of the consequences of alcohol and bad driving. This isn't about demonizing alcohol or those who enjoy it responsibly, but about preserving the safety and integrity of our beloved Southgate. Our demand is simple: to ban the sale of alcoholic beverages in 2 key locations, Southgate Park and the Goals/SoFi Soccer Center. This isn't an unreasonable ask. Many parks and recreation centers across the country have already imposed similar restrictions. According to National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, approximately 1/3 of fatal traffic accidents involve drunk drivers, indicating the clear, irreversible danger of combining alcohol with activities such as driving. Outlawing the sale of alcohol in these areas can contribute to lowering these statistics in our local area. Our community is known for its commitment to family and safety. By banning alcohol sales in these busy family-friendly venues, we can take one more step towards ensuring the security for all Southgate community members. Sign today and make Southgate a safer place for everyone. And it is signed by 11 individuals.
Thank you. Just given that this was a contentious kind of topic, we wanted to make sure that we gave our city clerk representative an opportunity to kind of read all of the comments as opposed to summarize it, so that it is a somewhat a transparent process.
Chair, I just want to let you know that we were handed a petition. This is the same petition as what's on page 62 in terms of the language, prohibit the sale of alcohol in Southgate Park and Goals/SoFi Soccer Center. There are 12 more people that signed the petition.
Thank you.
I
Now,
have a question.
Yes.
Was the email also read from the previous meeting that was canceled? I'm sorry, I didn't hear if that one was read.
I still have 3 more. The email from the first meeting was from Mr. Mario Dominguez, which will be reading.
Yes.
Comment number 5 from Mr. Mario Dominguez. He says, "Let me begin by saying that I ask the commissioners to vote yes and approve the zoning code amendment and the conditional use permit for this item. I do have some thoughts I'd like to share with you. I don't believe it would be a negative thing to allow for the sale of and consumption of alcohol at the SoFi Soccer Complex. If you go visit European countries such as France, Spain, Italy, Germany, Ireland, and I'm sure others, they all allow people to drink alcohol openly inside public parks. Here, the SoFi Soccer Complex is asking permission to sell alcohol and serve their patrons on site. Within their premises, they must meet all these conditions that they're required to comply with. Why must we Americans be so stringent and puritanical when it comes to alcohol? Why can't we be more like the Europeans? Serving alcohol to people inside of the restaurant or dining establishment wouldn't even be an issue for these European nations. They even allow people to drink and consume wine inside of their parks while they are having picnics and gatherings. These are some thoughts on the matter I'd like the commissioners to consider. I do have one request to make to the applicant, F. Michael Ayaz, who is representing Goals Soccer Center, Inc., DBA SoFi Soccer Center, Southgate. Mr. Ayaz, would Soccer Goals Centers, will Soccer Goals Centers be willing to contribute or donation to Southgate's Department of Parks and Recreation for funds to be used for the cost of construction of a splash pad at Southgate Park? Our city is pursuing developing a splash pad to be located inside the Southgate Park and needs funding to pay for the cost of construction. We're a low-income community and would greatly appreciate any contribution your organization could make in helping us with this project. This project would be a big uplift to our city, especially during the hot summer months. Could the city attorney include a condition into the contract with Goals Soccer Center, Inc., DBA SoFi Soccer Center, Southgate, asking them to consider making a contribution/donation to our city that would help fund and pay for a splash pad at Southgate Park? Mr. Ayaz, I ask that you please give serious consideration to this request. My city needs a hero. Please help us. This is an earnest plea. Thank you for listening. Mario Dominguez Jr. Comment number 6. I ask that the Planning Commission vote to approve and allow for the ordinance pertaining to our municipal code for the sale of alcohol in open space zoning district be amended to allow the sale of alcohol for on-site consumption with the restaurant/cafe located within the SoFi Soccer Complex, and to also vote to approve the conditional use permit that is needed for this location. Our parks are not solely intended to be used by children and families. They are also meant for adults. I ask that our commissioners please give us adults a cool hangout space where adults can relax and socialize. I've read the item report for this item, and it states that the owners intend to provide security for this location and will be cutting off alcohol sales at 10 p.m., which is 1 hour before they close. That works for me. If you go to Europe and you have picnics and we drink wine in their parks, why must we be so puritanical when it in the U.S.? Consuming alcohol is a restaurant in a restaurant that is inside of the park wouldn't even be an issue for these European countries. I don't know if our commissioners are familiar with the classic comedy TV sitcom Cheers. This was a show about a local bar that was a hangout space for adults. This SoFi soccer restaurant could be our version of Cheers. Don't be so rigid and narrow-minded with our parks. Please let us have our own Cheers. We deserve it. Thank you for listening, Mr. Mario Dominguez Jr. Comment number 7.
Is that still, is it a new individual, or, because we have 3 minutes for each
Yeah.
individual?
They're all,
Okay.
this last one is from him as well.
Is it long one, or is it pretty concise?
A
Just
little
wanna-
bit.
If you can summarize that, just because we're down to like 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's stating whatever decision you are going to make with this item, he's neither for or against it. However, he has some questions. He's never heard of a Target store selling alcohol and having areas in their store for tasting events. This is new for him.
That's
Oh.
that's for Tuesday nights. That's
So
not.
then leave it. Okay, okay.
Perfect. Just out of respect for my colleagues, we're going to take like a 5-minute break, restroom break.
Yeah.
So thank you. We'll be right back.
What we've found is that once we were affixed to a state license that has regulations and the city conditions that have regulations, those things initiated action by our group, which will be the same here, of monitoring the parking lot, as my client indicated that they would, identifying patrons that are either drinking in their cars or being disturbing, writing their license plates down, because we collect all that information at our check-in, and banning them from our facilities. We have staff that regularly monitors both the inside and the outside. And again, I would point to a letter from the chief of police, which is not something that's very easy to obtain, Commissioner Ruiz. I mean, you've really got to have the proof in the pudding, so to speak. The chiefs of police don't write those kind of letters unless they are confident in the operator, and that's what we have. And so when I tell you each location is a bit different, this is a park, we're at a school, so we will continuously work with both the Parks and Recreation, the police department, which we hope doesn't ever really become necessary, but it's a fluid situation, right? And so whatever it is that we need to do to make it work, that's what we're going to do. That's how the conditions were drafted when we worked with the city, so that, look, these are the conditions. We'll call you back in here if there's a problem. We'll give you an opportunity. If you don't, we're going to take it. Again, we are so confident in what we're doing because we have that proven concept. It's not a concept anymore. It's actually happening a few miles away from here. And again, to the point where I've never had a chief of police, and I've been doing this a while, actually come out and write a letter like the one that the chief wrote from Covina. And I think that should stand tantamount with not only this board, but with the residents. We can't control the way people drive on Pinehurst. We can't. What we can do is control what we can control. And what we can control is the facility that we are empowered by the lease to operate, and the parking lot to the degree that we can do it. And we need to rely on when we need help. I always encourage my clients, when we need help, to call the police. We need to be able to rely on the Parks and Rec Rangers. We need to be able to rely on the police department. And we need to take ownership of the security of our facility to protect ourselves and our customers and the community. So to that end, again, we talked a little bit about the security measures that we put in place. But again, if the parking lot is not left to its own devices, we are not going to necessarily, park someone out there all the time, because it financially doesn't make sense, right? But we will be monitoring the parking lot on a regular basis, which means a staff member will be going out to the parking lot. We have a 1-800, we have a call-in number that we'll share with the neighbors, that if they see something, tell us, because what we found is our customers or our people, the thing that scares them most is being banned from our location. And that's what's really been working. And to the degree that we need to, we call local law enforcement. Again, I think a couple of things, when we're talking about schools and children, again, remember, folks, we're in a school right now, and to have those folks write it, if we were having problems in Covina, then I would be worried about the strength of my case or this case, but we're not. And we have a 6-month review process, Commissioner Ruiz. So in 6 months, we'll be back here again. And I'm sure the police department will be monitoring our calls for service, and they'll be looking at all of our stuff. You guys will get reports on our ABC license, and we'll be back here and we'll say, hey, look, nothing has happened. We have no calls for service. Nobody got ran over in the parking lot. Everything is fine, just like it's been fine for the last 10 years. I mean, you haven't heard anything today that is directly linked to my client, right? You haven't heard that one of our customers peeled out there and hit a kid. These are just things that people are afraid of, and we understand that. But as one of the major community organizations, I think we can call ourselves in this community, that's given so much, and not for free. I mean, right? We're a business as well. And so in order to be able to sustain and stay in the city of Southgate, we need to provide the amenities that, unlike what you've heard, is now the common norm. I don't know if any of you have been to Silver Lakes for a tournament in Norco. They have a massive bar and restaurant that overlooks all their fields. If you've been to Field of Dreams, they have a bar inside of there. We're not asking for a bar or that. We're asking for a couple of beers and a couple of wines to have ancillary to our system. So again, I would encourage you to focus on facts and who's not here in opposition. The police department, the Parks and Recreation, they're all here in support of this project. They're the ones that have the know of how this place needs to be run. And we continue to reach out. These folks were here last time. I don't think there's, quite frankly, anything that I could say or my client can say that's going to change their feelings about alcohol. But prohibition did end a long time ago, and we're just a legal business that wants a chance to do the business under 46 conditions, under a lease, under the ABC regulations. So a lot of teeth if we don't do it. We're asking you as someone that's been in this community, that's invested so much, to give us that opportunity, and we'll be before you in 6 months, and we promise you that there's not going to be any issues. That's as much as I can tell you. I think the other thing is,
Did he answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that, you can't commit a staff member to, fully monitor. How far will your surveillance system go with, as far as the cameras go? Will they, because I mean, the parking lot's pretty big, so I'm not sure whether the site plans
no,
mentioned what is dedicated in particular to SoFi.
we have 234 parking spaces per the lease. And so the camera system, I mean, we can see a long way, but the quality of someone 100 feet away from the camera view, you're not going to see. So I would say that in the immediate vicinity, as with most camera systems all over the place. I mean, I would venture to guess that the city's camera systems outside don't go, to the parking lots down the street. They just cover what's essentially necessary for liability and for security purposes. And so it's industry standard is what it's going to be.
And so you will be calling in any drug or alcohol use, or are you just keeping track of the use as it relates to your facility?
No, I mean, absolutely. We have a zero tolerance policy. And so first, if it's any of our, again, remember, as the folks have said, the park is not exclusive to us.
Yeah.
Right. And so again, and we're kind of getting that stain on us because of people using the park, and then people not, perhaps the city not having the resources to get someone out there. So again, we have to be careful as business owners that I'm not sending out my staff to engage with some, crazy person in the park. And so if there are customers, because they check in, we have their information, we deal with them, they get banned. If we see drug use, alcohol, they get banned. If we see drug use, we'll call the police. The issue, as you've heard, is with all the stuff that's going on, some guy smoking a crack pipe in his car may not be on the highest level of a call for the police to respond. So all we can do is call it in, ask them to leave, call the ranger, call the cops. If they're not our customer, we can't ban them from our facility. But if they are, that's the what we do. Now, whether or not there's a response to that, that's something I can't or my client can't control.
Oh, no, I just wanted to know whether you guys would at least call it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we want to see, look, we don't want our customers to go into a parking lot that's problematic. And we haven't experienced that in our immediate area, right? In our immediate area, it's well lit. We are out there. We have people coming in and out all the time. And so we haven't seen it. To the degree that we see something, we report it.
Any additional comments from my colleagues?
So I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. I know this is a sensitive subject. A lot of you know that I'm always at Southgate Park. No, it's closed for, it's already closed for.
Ya está cerrado el momento para comentario. A ver, ¿estás relacionada a preguntas sobre el negocio? Okay. No, sí, ya notamos sus comentarios. No, gracias.
For many years, since I was very young, I've always been a part of programs at Southgate Park. So I've seen throughout, what, I'm 47 now, and since the age of 13, 14 years old, I've been out at Southgate Park, and I grew up on Hildreth and Southern during my high school years. We see a lot of things at the park, and we can't be blaming the sports. We can't blame the sports center for what people that come to the park do, as we can't hold responsible goals or at the time that it was Gold or SoFi for what others come and do to the park. There's a lot of activity always at Southgate Park. Steve and I always have conversations because of issues we do see. We can't put the blame when we don't know on somebody. You know, are we going to blame the girls' clubhouse or the people that go golfing? You know, the way people conduct themselves at the park, we can't be held. They should be accountable, and they should be more responsible, because a park is where families come. So, you know, as I've seen activities, there's also laws that have passed that officers are not allowed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that officers, if they see even an ice chest and there's reports that people are drinking, officers or the park CSOs are not allowed to open that ice chest to check. It has to be out visible if they see it. And that happens not just here at Southgate Park, it happens at all parks. And was I wrong about that law, that you can't open the ice chest? Thank you. So with that being said, you know, I know there's the elementary school. I've been there. I visited SoFi, and by the way, I took it. I made it a point. I did go stop by your West Covina one. On my way back, I decided to stop by just to go see how business is running, and I realized you do share a parking lot with, is it an elementary school? I'm sorry, it's been a few months that I passed by. And so you're right next door, you share the property. And so I also made a little bit more of an effort, did contact the city, and they said that you've done an amazing job to clean up the area. That you have your staff, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you have your staff that does go out, and if they at the beginning, and that if you see something that doesn't seem right, you do either ban them or you report it. So in this case, I know it's a huge parking lot, and we're sharing the parking lot with the girls' clubhouse, the auditorium, the golf course, the batting cages, and obviously there's field 2. You have field 2 that's on that side as well, and then behind the girls' clubhouse you have 5, 6, 7, and 8 field, right? When you have, if I know you will probably be having special events, and it results in more traffic, would you consider also having security? That's one of my questions, if you'll have security. 2, will you have staff also occasionally, or have like some kind of schedule to check the parking lot when things are going on? And let's see. And yeah, I think those are my only 2 questions for now.
I'm sorry, Vice Chair, the last question was?
Would you have staff occasionally, when there's not an event, occasionally check the parking lot?
Yes. Okay.
Or do you have, or do you even have somebody, the second question to that one, do you have somebody that's monitoring the cameras?
Yes. Okay. So first question was the special events.
Yes.
Every time that we do have a special event, we overstaff, and that staff would include, depending on the number that we are anticipating, security. So anytime we're bringing in a large group of individuals, not normal business operations, but let's say we host a tournament, for example, and we have a lot of people coming in, and we know because those things are already kind of pre-sold, pre-booked, and all that stuff. Yes, we will bring in on special events extra staff to staff not only the exterior but the interior of the facility. So I hope that answers that question. The second question was, it's been a long night, was, do we have somebody regularly walking the parking lot? And what's that? Yes. Yeah, so we have someone, sorry, that's what we do in Covina. So yes, we do, and we will have someone make routine walks around the parking lot. Again, we gotta be careful about the extent of where they go, right? Because of safety issues, and most of the time during the late night hours, we have 2 people go all the time at nighttime. But yes, we will be monitoring the parking lot. Again, remember our goal, to use that word, our goal at Goals is to make sure that the environment is safe for all that come to Goals. And so the answer to that question is we do. Obviously, at 2:00 in the afternoon, when perhaps we're not very busy, it slows down. So it's as an as needed basis, and that's really worked out for us in Covina, as you've heard directly yourself from them. We want to create that relationship, and we believe, with the city, where we can communicate with PD or the Rangers and say, hey, look, checking in. This is what we do in Covina. This is what we'll do here. Hey, we're checking in. How was it last month? Anything going on? Hey, you know what? On Friday the 16th, we had a couple of things happening in this part. Can you keep an eye on it? No problem. I mean, that's the kind of the relationship that we want to develop. I hope that answered your question. And we have not changed ownership. I just wanted to make that very clear. The name issue, there has been no change of ownership. So I mean, last time we were here, Louis was not here. His counterpart was here, but we haven't changed ownership. I just wanted to make that clear. But
Thank you.
Do you guys have a limit of, like in West Covina, do you have a limit of alcohol that is sold to one individual?
So we don't necessarily have a limit. What we do is we only sell 1 drink at a time to a person. We don't double up sell. And then, as I'm sure the city attorney can attest, there's in California, there was a Senate bill passed that now makes the RBS training, or responsible service training, mandatory. We've always done it. So we do both the state training, and then they also bring me in to do additional training. So we're looking for signs of intoxication, those kind of things. And as Rufino said, the most time people spend there is about an hour to an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours if their kids are really active and they have a couple of kids. And so the staff knows to watch, okay, this person had this many beers and within the hour. So we have training for that. We don't have like a hard and fast rule, 2 beers for your visit, because in some situations where I have 3 boys and they're all doing trainings, I may be there for 4 hours that day, and maybe I'll have 3 beers.
Thank you.
Colleagues?
I appreciate the community showing up and commenting. I also, want to thank the people from SoFi. I want to thank the city for all the time that they have taken to put these 46 conditions of approval. I think it's important to point out condition number 32 that states the violation or noncompliance with any of these conditions shall constitute grounds for revocation of this permit, which I think is really important to point out. Of course, public safety is always going to be a concern. Currently, right now, there's already a public safety concern, but this is not related to goals or SoFi, like Mike mentioned. It's just something that happens all the time, and it's not just at Southgate Park. It's practically everywhere in every single parking lot in the city of Southgate and in a bunch of other cities, not just us. So I mean, these conditions of approval are very robust. Anybody who invests $9 million into our city, I would imagine,
is not going to mess around when they are asking for something like this. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there. I think it's important to note that there's a lot in here. I know that one of the concerns was there was a mention of a school. There's a school that's right down the street. My niece used to go there. I mean, I don't know if a recommendation can be made that, currently the hours state 2 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. on weekdays. I don't know, changes to 3 p.m. Maybe you can start selling alcohol once school's closed and that kind of, it goes away the concerns with the schools, right? Being an issue. Weekends, the schools aren't open. So I don't know, it's just a recommendation, but yeah, that was it.
And we have to remember that our police department works very closely with ABC, and we've mentioned that numerous times here when other when restaurants have applied for the ABC license and it comes before us. It's been mentioned by the police department how closely they work for ABC. And to the residents that don't know too much about the ABC, those licenses are extremely expensive. They actually, are, you have to go through an extensive part about the application and everything like that. So there's no business that really wants to take that risk of losing that. It's not $5, $10 for ABC license.
Hi, I also want to reiterate what my colleagues just said. I just want to thank the applicants and our city staff for all the work that they put into this project. Well, I see this project as enhancing our community amenities and bringing something new and exciting, something innovating, like a new restaurant to our community. I also respect the community that came out today and voiced their opinions. And I have a couple of questions regarding security. I did see in the presentation, there was no mention of any type of security. And what I mean by security, I mean inside the premises, like who's checking for IDs, what's happening to verify the age. And then it's kind of vague. It doesn't really say if this is just a general restaurant or if it's a bar and grill. I know you mentioned like Buffalo Wild Wings, for example. It is a bar and grill. There is a bar section and there's an area for families. So I just kind of wanted some explanation on that. And then also there is a school. So there is a concern with that as far as happy hour. Is there a happy hour that is going to be involved? And then a party room. I saw something about a party. So what does that entail? What is a party room? Capacity, and does that have security? And then also, how is this going to benefit our community as far as employment? Are we going to provide employment to members of our community? And that's it.
Perfect. All right. So let me do the party room first. The party room is a small, not a small room, but it's a room that we kind of designated for like a team party, right? So it's not like a private loungy area or anything like that. It's like it's if you wanted if my son with his, what's that? Yeah, like birthday parties, because we do have a lot of those, right? Or we have a team that comes in that wants to have a party of their own. So that's kind of like a private dining room area.
Is alcohol, would that be a premise where alcohol would be involved as well?
It's going to be covered by that, sure. Yeah, obviously, if we're having a kid's birthday party, the kids aren't going to be drinking, but the adults may be. But we don't see that happening on the kids' parties. But we have the older kids, as I like to call them, or us, my age, that go in for a game or something, and then they want to have a team meeting. We have a lot of coaches that go. We have a lot of high-level executives from various clubs that go. So they'll have a meeting in there. Yeah, they'll be able to drink beer in there if they wanted to. As far as how IDs are checked, I think Luis did touch on that. But when you walk into the facility, the first thing you're greeted with is our check-in counter, where you have to provide your identification. You have to check in. You have to either we have a QR code that you have to fill out the waivers and all the information. But part of that process is also identifying who's coming in, identifying the age, getting the wristband. The wrist, as Louis mentioned, that we tell our clients always, and they follow the protocol, is to get the ID verifiers. So they're the ones that you maybe have seen in other places where you actually run the card through. It helps with both our control of our employees, because people are people, and this actually gives you the green light and red light, and then they view it. And then at the point of sale, if they were to order it, order alcoholic beverages. Again, that wristband is just to let everybody in the facility know that's a 21-year-old person. But then again, when they go to order a beverage from the counter, not a bar, they also are ID'd at that point. We don't have a fixed bar. The Buffalo Wild Wings was just kind of I was making another point, but there's no fixed bar. There is a service counter. That service counter serves food, sodas, ice cream, and will be the point of sale for the beer as well. Which other question?
Employment.
Oh, the employment. Well, that's a great point. We always strive in every community that we're in to hire from within. That's always been our goal. I think if you look behind me, some of the employees that are here, a lot of them were set to be here last time. They couldn't make it this time, but a lot of them are Southgate residents. And as I mentioned, and I think Louis can talk about this, I think we have about 30 employees at this facility. 30 employees? 30 employees at this facility, a majority of which are from not only Southgate, but the surrounding community. But obviously, saying it in a public record, we'd like to give preference to the hometown. And to the extent that people apply for the jobs, they're from Southgate, they meet the qualifications, we're more than happy to hire them. And so with the implementation or the addition of the beer and wine, we will need additional employees. And again, we will first advertise that in the community and hopefully fill those jobs. And should those jobs not be filled, then expand our territory for search.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So I do have I guess one of the opportunities, I don't like to use the word challenge, but one of the opportunities that we often face within our community is that there's not enough civic engagement, that there's not enough opportunity for folks to get involved. So when we have individuals show up with folks signing up a petition, that carries weight. Not only that, but I think as a city, I think we have an opportunity to really make these meetings more accessible to the greater community, given that not everyone in our community, especially with the digital divide, have access to internet to submit public comment. So sometimes the fact that we don't have a call-in feature, that limits the ability for the greater community to actually be involved and actually voice their concerns or in favor of a specific project. In this case, I don't know, I can't speak to why all of a sudden I started getting quite a few, I would say, things for, I would say, been communicated by several concerns regarding, or community members' concerns regarding this particular project. And I think, as we mentioned, it is a contentious, somewhat topic because of the sale of alcohol and the, one would say, the sensitivity around that for our neighbors. And I would say not only folks that live around the park, but folks in our city that actually take part in your activities at your soccer complex, but also just participate in running around or basic recreational activities around the park in general. So with that said, I'll ask, ask my colleagues here for a little bit of leeway, because I do have, out of respect for, the individuals that did contact me and some of their comments specifically around this particular complex. So one of the concerns that kind of was brought up, and that's actually was from one of my neighbors. We have a neighborhood watch group in my block, which we would always say should be more active. But, when folks all of a sudden start knocking on my door about certain concerns, I listen. And one of them actually is a participant in the soccer complex. He loves soccer. He welcomes all the great work that you all do. It's a great recreational activity, especially around competitiveness. He said it's a great way for him to feel like he's young again, because he gets to play soccer at your spot. But one of the things that he also had reservations on was around the alcohol and the understanding behind how does recreation, this recreational activity, especially around healthy living, how does that help promote recreational activities in our respective community? He said that apparently
he has already witnessed folks in the actual complex towards the back end of Southern, actually already partaking in drinking alcohol on your complex. So that's a little bit of a concern to me, given that there's already illegal alcohol consumption taking place. Maybe it might not be as visible as someone drinking out of a can, but the fact that they have water bottles, sports bottles, or whatever the case may be with alcohol is probably something that we should probably better monitor or, kind of explore. Another concern that was brought up by another resident was the fact that they partake in a lot of the softball activities. They have kids that participate in youth sports, recreational activities, whether it's baseball, softball. And I believe, and maybe this is a question to staff, in regards to the current lease agreement, are they responsible or is SoFi responsible for the batting cages and operational aspect of the batting cages? Yes, okay. So one of the complaints is that they're never operational. They're always breaking down. And you can imagine some of the folks out there really love their softball or their youth sports. So they'd like to just make sure that maybe that kind of can be addressed, by the actual applicant.
Can I just add something? They are correct because I myself was a victim. I went to the batting cages. None of them worked. I never got my refund. Don't worry about it. You guys can keep it. But it definitely, they need to, if you can fix them, that would be awesome. I was really excited to go and I couldn't actually play. So
I had heard that the cages had been recently fixed.
I hope they have. If I could just interrupt though, the city already has a lease. If SoFi is not complying with its lease obligations, that's something that the city can take up administratively. Here we do need to focus on the alcohol sales at this facility, not anything having to do with how the batting cages are being run.
Okay, so I'll just proceed here. Sorry, Ron.
If I could, although I respect the attorney's focusing of our scope, which is always helpful because it's easy to stray, but I could just provide an informational update that the lease was recently renewed, and one of the conditions was to fix the batting cages, and they've already made some improvements, which to my understanding include getting rid of the coins, which people would jam purposely so that they didn't have to pay, to another system. And there's, I think, a couple more repairs to come. So that was brought up in the lease, but again, not directly connected. But I think it could be used as an example of an ability to have a partnership, and they are responsive versus not responsive if we have a problem.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. So I want to respect to stay on course, but out of respect for the comments that I got, kind of want to stay the course here on my end as well. So the reason I bring that up is because if there are already concerns with the existing lease agreement expectations in regards to making sure that they're, that the batting cages are fully operating, that we don't have illegal consumption of alcohol already taking place on the actual grounds inside the complex. Those are concerns, right? So I just want to make sure I bring those to the forefront. In regards to the designated parking lot that was assigned, that the reference in the diagram. Now, these are my questions, right? So to staff, what are the responsibilities of the SoFi in regards to the designated parking lot as opposed to the shared parking lot?
Well, it's really, as far as the lease agreement goes, they really just have to maintain the parking lot, just the regular maintenance of it. Doesn't specify monitoring or any of that activity. Within those 232 parking spaces, as you've mentioned, there's some that are shared, they're not exclusive to the facilities. Therefore, part of that, the responsibility does fall back on the city in terms of that.
Great. And just previously this was kind of brought up and it was denied. That's accurate in regards to the request for alcohol permit there. Okay. So one of the things that I think for me, and I think it kind of goes back to some of the concerns, and I think I keep going back to transparency, and I think that's extremely important, is I went ahead and looked at the previous packet that was provided to the commission here November the 19th, And then I compared that to our commission packet that was provided on December the 5th. And clearly, as we say, and I think Rob referenced that there was some negotiating that kind of took place within that time frame that, kind of made some changes to the staff recommendations, as we see with a lot of projects, right? That seems to be accurate? Is that part of the process?
As part of the process, yeah, it does normally happen where there has to be some sort of consensus of where staff conveys their stance with regards to the project and whether they would support it. And that's where we draft the conditions. In this case, earlier in the process, when we got to the first planning commission meetings, there was certain items that were still kind of where staff was not amenable to the applicant's request. Therefore, the conditions were drafted in such a way. Subsequently, after November 19th, we had these discussions between police department, Parks and Rec director, city manager, and the applicant as well, to try to figure out a condition that would kind of be the middle ground per se, where it could be supported or recommended for approval by staff.
What we try to do is we try to hash out some of these issues beforehand before we actually take to the planning commission, so that the applicant can, if approved, they can abide by the conditions.
Okay. So the reason I mentioned that is because as I was looking through the I would say terms and conditions, I guess, for lack of a better word, right, in regards from the applicant, I noticed that there were maybe some key, I would say, recommendations or requirements that were going to be requested. And I think I just kind of wanted to get a little bit more clarity on that. Currently, the park closes at 10. The previous application, or I guess to say packet, had the last call, or, the last sale would be at 10 o'clock. The new one now has it for 10:30. So that's past the hours of operation for the actual park itself, which is 10 o'clock. And I understand they're operating till 11, but that might be something that, I would encourage our colleagues here to kind of revisit, given that, as we know, last call might be 10:30, but the last, sip of alcohol might not be till closer to 11. That's one. But one of the, I guess, the one that I really kind of, and I think some of my colleagues here kind of roughly touched on, is the one specifically around the one about requiring security guards. There was,
I don't want to answer your question before you ask it. I'm sorry.
okay. There was one regarding security guards. That was the requirement of having 2 security guards that was kind of presented in the initial packet that has now been revised to, that's not necessarily required now.
Well, part of that stemmed from the city's interpretation of information in the application, which was different from the applicant's interpretation. The applicant had referenced in the application that part of the personnel that were going to be needed for this venture was, a certain number of individuals, including 2 security personnel. When we drafted the initial conditions, we read that to mean 2 full-time security guards at all times. The applicant, who is running a business and has the same budget that other business has, corrected us and said, no, we're not going to hire 2 full-time security guards, just like, again, I hate to keep bringing up Buffalo Wild Wings, but when you walk into Buffalo Wild Wings, there are not 2 full-time security guards there. He simply said that we will have, among the staff, we will have security personnel, like the ones I mentioned, who check people in and monitor make sure that there's not underage drinking, that we will have 2 people on staff who will handle that sort of thing. And that's why that changed. We weren't making that change because we were encouraging the Wild West. It was just wanting to have these conditions conform to business practices of the other restaurants in the city.
And that was negotiated by who? Yes.
I could step in there, Craig. I appreciate it. Yeah, certainly appreciate the differences in the language. I got I've been involved in the project at a higher level, but in the last few weeks, as we we're trying to sort of land the plane to bring it here, I jumped in a lot more detail and have a lot of experience in multiple cities, long history of dealing with deals and these kind of CUPs. So I felt like I could maybe provide a little help. And as Craig outlined, the definition of security, I think got a little misconstrued by staff, you know, and you can read it one way or the other. And it wasn't intended to be standalone security guards. This is an operation typically like a restaurant. They ask for a CUP and alcohol. It's unless there's some, you know, known major problem, a city doesn't usually dictate the exact terms of how an entity would staff their event. Like, you know, you're going to have a restaurant. We want to have 3 hostesses and we want their shifts to be this, and we want 6 servers and 7 cooks. They, you know, we want you to behave in a certain way, and how you staff it. I recommended we get out of the detail there and let them do that. But we added, I think there's so many conditions, 46, I think 32 might be the one where it's like, let's have a catch-all that really says what we want is exactly what the residents want, and came out 2 years ago and really shared again. We need an operator that's going to make sure this is not a problem in the neighborhood. Again, they're only controlling their clients. They're not controlling the entire park, which has thousands of visitors that won't every day that aren't goals clients, but their clients in particular. Big picture, figure out a way to keep it safe, figure out a way to serve safe, keep everything locked in and the service in there, have your type of security, however you want to label it or staff it, but give us results, give us a safe community, no impacts outside problems that we see. But in condition 32, if there's any issues, we decide what those issues are. We describe if the Parks and Rec director, who's been here for 34 years, he knows the people, he knows the neighborhood, he knows control. If he hears problems, if he sees problems, he's going to be on them, and he will decide what's good enough or not, and it'll be up to our discretion. So that's the idea of we've taken out some specificity in order to create a catch-all that is much more detailed and more controlling in order to cover the same concern, but in a different way, if that helps clarify.
Yeah, no, I appreciate. Sorry, you were.
It's just to say
Gonna add to that?
it's condition 32 and condition 29.
Yeah, and the only reason I mentioned that because I was reviewing the actual application from the applicant, and I'll kind of reference it. Expected surge in applicants' food and beverage activities, including the recruitment of 2 to 3 bartenders, 2 additional cooks to meet the heightened demand due to alcohol consumption, with the plans for healthy options and taco program, and 2 security guards to ensure the safety of both staff and customers. That was presented by the applicant, right? So I don't understand, or maybe you can provide clarity on how is that misinterpreted? They're clearly identifying that 2 security guards is necessary to ensure the safety of both staff and customers, which, you know, ultimately when we're negotiating on behalf of our community, you know, we do have leverage. Instead of negotiating with a deficit mentality and giving up public safety, you know, one of the things that kind of goes back to, and I think this is another thing, and I don't want to generalize this because it's really about that respective operation, right? The soccer complex, is that this whole idea of, you know, we're comparing this to another city in Covina or West Covina over there. Everything was great. This helped, you know, things got better. Every community has a different need. Every community is in a different place. And it's very clear to anyone that's a resident in Southgate that Southgate Park, specifically that area around SoFi, has issues. There's issues with illegal alcohol consumption that clearly is acknowledged by a Rec and Park director in his recommendation letter. It's alcohol as well as illegal drugs is an issue in that area already. And on top of that, now we're saying, yeah, that's not SoFi's responsibility. You're absolutely right. That is not your responsibility.
Not their
But
fault.
that's not your fault, to your point. But it is our responsibility as a city to make sure that that's addressed before we can add another layer of safety issues to this respective area. You know, I visited your location. Your staff are amazing. Amazing. They're extremely passionate about soccer, access to soccer for adults, for youth. I can't say anything negative about the program. It's amazing, hands down, right? Your staff, your general manager, who's been great, invited us. But I'm also a resident of Southgate. I'm also a daily visitor of that park. I actually lie. Let me take that back. I'm there about 3 to 4 days a week between 8 o'clock and 9:30 p.m., running around the park, walking around the park, cooling off or whatever the case may be. And I do see those issues there front and center. I do peek in to see what's going on in that. And it's awesome because every time I drive by there or I walk by there, I see the amazing program and the asset to the community that you play for the city of Southgate. You see the fields are hustling and bustling. Everybody's having a great time. It's amazing. But that's the intent. Like, that's why SoFi is there, to provide access to recreational sports and youth sports, not to serve alcohol. That's not an added benefit to our respective city. Now, that's my opinion. I'm sure that's not something that you want to hear, but the beauty of it is that I'm only one vote, right? So, ultimately, those are my concerns. But more importantly, that's also the concerns of a lot of our residents. And, but ultimately we all have a decision to make, and actually I'll end on this note. The fact that we have our Southgate Director of Parks and Recreation would support such an application, and I have this written down because I wasn't going to be able to attend the last meeting. The city's inability to currently enforce illegal consumption of alcohol at the SoFi designated parking lot, insinuating that allowing SoFi to sell alcohol legally would make it safer for youth and families at the center and surrounding community is irresponsible. There's no way that any location that sells alcohol is safer.
So when people
that's
go
my-
golf and want to have a beer, that's unsafe. And when we go to Dodger Stadium, to a stadium to watch a game, it's not.
If we get we have a motion to move forward with it or with any of the recommendations presented.
I move to approve.
I second.
Commissioner Perez,
Yes.
Commissioner Prieto,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz,
No.
Vice Chairperson Laborín,
Yes.
Chairperson Ozaeta.
No.
Motion passes.
So we'll go ahead and proceed with any audience comments. No audience comments. We'll close audience comments. City staff comments.
If I may, just really quick, and I know it's been a late night though, but I just wanted to report that there are, a couple of events coming up for the rest of the year. The Pageant of the Trees is coming up on this Saturday, and we also have the Christmas Lane Parade and Festival, which is on December 8th, Sunday. And I also wanted to report that, we were supposed to have another meeting on December 17th, but we have no items for that. We have no items for the first meeting of January as well. So we expect our next meeting to be on January 21st, 2025, and that's we have a couple items for that. City Hall will be closed from Monday, December 23rd to Thursday, January 2nd, and will reopen on Monday, January 6th. So just want to wish the Planning Commission happy holidays and see you next year.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments from our Planning Commission? No comments. Thank you very much. This is the last one for the year. Is that correct? Is that what I'm hearing? So thank you very much. Thank you to staff for your commitment to our community. Thank you to SoFi for your continued support and your dedication to providing high quality recreational services. Happy holidays. And we will adjourn at 9 p.m. Is that what you have on your clock? Thank you very much. 9:01. Take care.